sit over there.
Sit over there, comedian.
And I did the sleep
Funny
study,
guy.
but in a sleep study, you don't sleep very much because you're packed with glue and wires, like in my nose, on my chest, all in my head.
Did you wear pajamas?
So then, when they come in the morning, no, I wore basketball shorts, and she goes, "Are you gonna wear that T-shirt to bed?" I go, "I'd rather not." She goes, "Well, take it off." And I took it off. I said, "Well, COVID-20, here I am."
Did you have to sleep
She
with your
goes,
mask
"That's
on?
a common theme. Don't worry about it."
Did you have to sleep with your mask on?
I don't have a mask. Oh, the mask. No, but I had to wear the mask the whole time while she was, and then in the like it's very hard to sleep like that, and I'm a stomach sleeper, so that's not really possible. And so then she comes in and she's undoing me, and then she goes, "So how much do you think you slept?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I hope enough."
I hope enough.
My eyes are red. I'm like, "I don't think enough to be good enough for my day, but enough for the sleep study, I hope." And so she said, "Well, how many hours do you think?" So I got there at we went to bed at 10:30, 11. And I'm like, "I don't know." And she woke me up at 5:20.
We?
No, me.
Okay, just checking.
And she woke me up at 5:20. And so I'm like, that's only 6 hours to begin with. So I'm like, I don't know, 4, because I laid asleep, but not sleeping. Okay. Anyway, so I said 4. So then I got home at 6:15 and went to bed till 10.
Oh, she didn't tell you how much you actually slept?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to say. Did I win?
Did I win?
So what I've noticed, being diagnosed with sleep apnea, I was unaware that I wasn't sleeping properly, and I was waking up 38 times in an hour. 38 times in an hour, and I did not know that. And so not getting the right sleep, you aren't getting the right amount of oxygen to my bloodstream, which is vital for heart condition, health, immune system, all this stuff. And I didn't even know it was happening. Isn't that I know when I'm tired, but I've lived for 10 years,
but I think because
always being tired, but never knowing that I was tired.
Because I think it's progressive. When something gets progressively worse, you don't realize that it's happening. That's why there's the whole analogy of the frog. And then I finally went to the doctor. Oh, the frog in the water. Yeah. If they dropped you into that amount of sleep, you never would have adjusted to it. You would have freaked out, gone to your doctor, said something's wrong. But because it was slowly turned up the temperature of the water, you don't even notice.
Don't even know.
I think people do the same thing with their coffee consumption.
I think people do the same thing with anxiety, with addiction. We don't even really know that we're in prison, that we're a slave to it. I know that I even struggle even knowing that I'm anxious. Yeah. So my body will tell me little signs that I have undone stuff. But it's very hard to be very self-aware. If I don't even know I'm sleeping,
it is very hard.
How does that happen?
Anyway,
I don't know. That's why we need community. That's why we need people in our lives to be like, "Hey, why are you so sleepy? Why are your eyes red? Why are you twitching?"
So I feel like I've made a new friend in Georgia, and
hi, new friend in Georgia.
So this is the cool thing about technology and this crazy life that we're living right now. It actually has some really good plus sides, and we have another whole new community of people that we connect
Bronx,
with.
New York. So what's up?
The Bronx BBA meeting, which is a AA meeting, daily meeting at 9.
AA, why do you go? Are you an alcoholic?
It's actually open to anyone who is an alcoholic, drug addict, an Al-Anon, which is the families of alcoholics or addicts, and chaos creators, controllers, fixers, excitaholics, adrenaline addicts.
How about sex addicts?
Oh yeah, I think they'd let sex addicts
overeaters,
cocaine, yeah.
So it's a group for 12-step, run by Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. And so we've been using the big book and putting it in the context of your issue or sex issue or overeating issue. Yep. And so it's called Transcribing the Big Book because it's the same problem that applies to all of us. I just go to a different source that gives me the same problem.
And I remember going to open AA meetings with you when you first were going into recovery. And I had been going to a meeting for a couple of years. I'd already been going to 12-step meetings for myself because I thought that I would go to those meetings and they would tell me how I could fix you better. But they didn't. They told me to shut up and stop talking about you and work on myself. But then you went to rehab anyway. And then we went to open AA meetings together, and I thought I was an alcoholic.
Because so many of us have the same problem. We just use a different solution to cover up my problem.
Bad drinking stories.
Yeah,
I had these bad drinking stories, but that was mostly because I was trying to keep up with you, which is a bad idea. And so they unpacked it with me. They qualified me, as I recently found out, to figure out, was I really an alcoholic? And no, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have an allergy to alcohol. I don't have a mental obsession about alcohol or substances. I actually have a mental obsession or an allergy, as you will, to adrenaline and chaos and like controlling and fixing and trying to manage the things around me.
Abnormal response for a craving for more.
And I really appreciate that aspect of what's like happening now in this world where we've gone from face-to-face meetings and being busy and doing things to going a little bit more online. And there's a 3 p.m. our time, Eastern time, 3 o'clock our time in San Diego. So we connect into that one sometimes. And then sometimes I connect into 9 p.m. Then they do a Sunday one specific to emotional sobriety, and they do a Thursday night one.
If you want any more details about 12-step stuff, 12-step groups that are really encouraging and fun to be a part of, and
they talk about the solution. That's what they're talking about. You know, I actually was telling one friend about it. We went for a walk, and I was telling her about it. She's like, yeah, but I don't like those meetings where like people go on and on and on about what it was like and telling all their stories about how bad it was. She's like, I feel so depressed and like anxious about that.
Those shouldn't be a part of a 12-step meeting. That's a counseling session. That's a one-on-one. Yeah, those aren't a part of a 12-step meeting.
Nobody in these meetings talks like that.
It's horrible. It's actually divisive.
It's very, very positive.
Because you can hear somebody's war stories and go like, it doesn't apply to me. I've never been in jail, so I'm not alcoholic.
One girl said that last night. She's like, oh, I drove to my rehab. And I was like, I have a car. I'm not like you people. And so I just, anyway,
we just share about our really solution. Our old solution was alcohol. Mine was alcohol, and now it's God. So I just share about my spiritual experience. I share about my spiritual awakening. And so we can share on that level through the line of transmission of alcohol used to be my solution. Never my problem, but here's my problem.
And you were my solution.
Woo!
Until you backfired on me.
Lord heal.
All right, we're going to read this book. It is called Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. And we read this every day. It is typically a lot earlier, but a morning devo where we can meditate on something. It gives us a concept to think about for the day. The reading grounds us and to quiet my spirit, quiet my mind, and
a spiritual practice, if you will.
It's a spiritual practice. So today is September 22nd, trusting ourselves. Many of us believed that heeding the words of God or our higher power meant following rigid rules, an instruction booklet for life. Many of us now believe differently. The rigid rules, the endless instructions, the exhortation to perfection are not the words our higher power whispers. The words of God are often those still small words we call intuition or instinct, leading and guiding us forward. We are free to be who we are, to listen to and trust ourselves. We are free to listen to the gentle, loving words of a higher power, words whispered to and through each of us. Today, help me, God, to let go of shame-based, rigid rules. I will choose the freedom of loving, listening, and trusting.
I remember thinking all that too. Like, it's all rigid rules, and I'm not quite ready for that yet. I'm like, my story's not done, and it's not bad enough to follow rigid rules. Right. And but yeah, that's not a loving God. My perception was way off, and so God does speak to us. His sheep hear His voice. So if we have the King of creation on the throne of our hearts,
tell your quick story about realizing that thoughts in your head were maybe coming from an outside source and not from you.
As in
thoughts in your head.
Oh yeah, so like God speaks to me through a picture or a word in my head.
Before you even realized what was happening. How did you realize? Okay, so I remember being devastated, like sobbing hysterically on my bed. You're gone. I don't know. I can't get a hold of you. Whatever. You were gone for 3 days or something like that. And I'm ripping Kleenex. And I remember thinking, I tear a whole box of Kleenex into tiny little strips. And it was a sobbing mess. And I remember thinking, I love you. Like, you are my daughter, and I love you so much, and I never wanted this for you. This is not what I wanted. You hear, and I thought it in my head, and I was like, that is like the weirdest thought. And then I thought, like, and I grew up in a Christian home, so a home that talked about God, and we went to church and whatnot. And so I knew, for me, I was like, God, you know, and it didn't unpack like that, but that was like a moment of me realizing God loves me. Wait a minute. This isn't what God wanted for me. And then I actually like engaged in those thoughts. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's easy to, as God comes to you, he speaks in your language, and he comes to you in your mess, and he comes and speaks right to he's spoken to my heart, where it's like, yeah, I'm a crying mess after he speaks to me, and it gives me direction and encouragement. And then even now, like, we need, like, I hear his voice through the Bible and through brothers and sisters as a community. Like, we need each other so that we don't go way off to the left, because we have a deceiver that comes as a lamb in wolf's clothing, and he uses a voice as well, and he tries to get in our mind. The enemy wants mind control, and so if you can't control your mind, who's controlling your mind?
So that just happened to me, where someone sent me a text message this morning and said, like, I've been praying for you, and I was thinking, your mom's text message. So I've been praying for you, and I was thinking this, and so she just said, like, you know, I feel like you're in this great season right now where I have open space. I don't have a job. And she's like, there could be something around the corner, and, you know, maybe God just really, you could be scattered a bit here and there and be involved in lots of different things because you have all this free time. But maybe God wants you to kind of like stay, I think she said, like, maybe stay more focused, or just ask him about my schedule. And that actually is something that has been on my mind for like the last week or so. Like, since I started making a schedule and trying to follow it, I've thought about a couple of my commitments and really thought and offered them up to God. Like, is this something I stay with, or is this something I need to let go of? Because I made 2 commitments that are basically till May. And I really prayed about those, and I really felt like those are commitments that I need to stick to till May. It's significant, I think, for a human being to make a long-term commitment to schedule, right? Like, that's not a job, or, you know, it's just something I'm making myself do. And so, yeah, so I thought that was a really good, like...
Well, and I heard a story last night where a friend of mine who was in the construction world company, and I don't know if he had ever bought a new vehicle, but they bought a new vehicle, and he felt God saying, buy a truck. And there were specific instructions, and so by the time they ended up buying a truck, they ended up buying a brand new truck. So trucks are heavy duty payment, but they needed the truck for the business and whatever. And so then that year he lost his job, and he's working with a full-time addiction service worker now. And so that's about a third of the pay. And so he goes, you know, I heard him right, but then now what I missed was I was supposed to get a used truck.
Not a brand new, really nice truck.
So now he has these payments, so we can still hear God's voice, but then our heart goes towards like, oh, the big shining, like, it's not a big deal. I make this amount of money right now. It's all good. This is God's will, and he wants his boys to have shiny trucks. But if we miss the fine print, and I think that's why we need community, just to kind of bounce it off people, not to look for advice, but to go, do you think, like, this is God's voice? And I wanted to decipher that with you and with community. I thought that was cool that he shared that with me last night. So I think we can trust ourselves to hear the voice of God, but then use the Bible as the foundation, as the bedrock of his voice, and then use the children of God around us, our community, to confirm things, especially in moving in directions. And, you know, I look at, if we have a new employer, if we have a new person sitting on our throne, the creator, Jesus is sitting on our throne, then we have a new employer. And so what is the job description? Simply, the job description is serve others and lead my addicted children, lead my poor children, lead my sick children into my light and into my arms. And so that's really our job description. And so we do that one day at a time and 1 foot at a time. Yeah, opportunity arrives, and then we might actually have to leave our job.
Oh, that's good. Oh, buddy.
Oh, there's your buddy. Fall off the couch. All right. You were going to close with something?
No, I actually got fearful for a moment because I have a 1 o'clock appointment.
You have a 1 o'clock, and
I had no idea what time it was.
12:30. All right.
12:30. Buddy the pug wanted to come say hello.
Oh, Buddy says, "Hi, everybody."
He fell off the back of the couch.
I don't know why he
insists on sitting up there. He doesn't have delicate balance.
Yeah, he's not a balancer. All right, we will
have a great day.
See you tomorrow. Until